everyone. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, A League of Inspirational Women. My name is Ikpeme-Mbakwem and it's so good to have you back here. Alright, so this particular channel was created to have inspirational women, everyday inspirational women come and share how they are killing it at their lives, their workplace, their businesses, their homes. And recently I had this leading to start a series called Divorced and Loving Life, for women out there who are going through separation, divorce, or who are, who have lost a spouse, or who are single mothers, because I'm divorced and I know that we need to know how to love life even while we're going through the setbacks that we're going through. Okay, so today's share is called How to Forgive, and why. Oh my goodness. Yes, and I'll be reading from my book. So I published this book in 2020 after the lockdown. And on this chapter is chapter 5 of my book, and it's the chapter is titled 70 times 77. That's what it's titled. And it is the process that I want to share with you about forgiveness, how I got into this, right, and why. So it reads, all right, so there comes a time in our lives when we have to be intentional about living and not just existing. That means that almost every decision you crystallize into action was intentionally planned to bring you to an expected end. Now, existing and living are nearly synonymous. The only difference is that when you are existing, you are leaving everything to time and chance. Whereas, when you are living, you conceive, plan, implement, and continuously monitor the process to ensure that you realize the big picture, that image or vision you hold in your mind's eye. With this in mind, one of the things I needed to be intentional about achieving for myself was being at peace. You see, after going through the rough, leaving a failed marriage, moving out, settling in a new home, and a new kind of life, I was still so pained and angry with myself, with my estranged spouse, and with the institution called marriage. But the anger directed towards myself was not because I had made an error in judgment. It was because I saw my tummy progressively expand over 9 months, culminating in the birth of a fearfully and wonderfully made gift from God, only to have him entangled in the pain, instability, and confusion that my life had turned out to be. The anger bugged me so deep, and when my mind was not engaged with work or with my son, it would find a way to go back to the pain, bringing up angry and negative thoughts. Thoughts that would beat me down and send me on a guilt trip. The same thoughts that had a way of leveling my confidence to ground zero, like a house demolished with a raging ball. This was not good for me, as those negative emotions and thoughts that I had forever squashed kept resurfacing and taking control of my life and my emotions. It was obvious I had not dealt with the situation. I also knew that I needed to keep my mind sane, more so for my son. My mission was to shield him from the negative fallout of our separation. My desire was to have him experience the best of both his parents' worlds, so that he could also have a sense of security and identity. Preserving his innocence as much as I could was my goal. And I will stop here to say that I have achieved that. We, in the co-parenting relationship or collaborative parenting relationship that we're in, have actually achieved that. So I envisioned this and I worked towards putting it in place. If you've been watching some of my videos, this part I've actually shared that you die to self when you're in a collaborative parenting situation, because you're thinking more of your child or your children. You have to preserve their innocence in their minds, right? Because that is from there that they would grow and become fantastic people in life. Okay, so now I'm going back to the book. At this point, I want to tell you a little bit about pain, as I came to know it and how it can hinder your growth. So here we are, and I'll just pause. So here we are, you've gone through all that pain, and you need to move on in life. That's why I call it divorced and loving life. Because regardless of your setbacks, you need to love life. It's not the end. There's so much more that you're made for. But you see, if you hold on to the pain, if you hug pain like a lover, you will not be able to enjoy life. So, it limits your self-image. It blurs your vision. It clouds your judgment. It makes you build a negative stance in life. It causes you to run from your responsibilities. It makes you lack self-love. It makes you a prisoner to your emotions. And it can rule your mind. So do you see why I desperately needed to overcome the pain? So I could experience the promise of Philippians 4:7, and the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Jesus Christ. A very important process for me was to acknowledge my pain. I needed to come to terms with how I felt inside and how I needed to let go of the pain. And then I wanted to let go. I yearned for it. So I prayed for it and was led to the brook called forgiveness. There is a brook called forgiveness. That's what I got to discover. Now, taking a swig from that brook filled me with the need to forgive myself first, and then forgive him, and finally forgive society and those who had unfairly judged me. Wow, it was difficult just thinking about it, but indeed a process I had to experience to be able to tell this part of the story to you. But I had 20 questions. What does it mean to forgive? How do I forgive? Where do I start from? How do I really know that I have forgiven myself, him, the society? Would I lose my respect by forgiving? I needed answers to be able to move forward. So the next part of this book, right, is the 3 steps to forgiving, which I'm going to share. But before I share these 3 steps, I would like to tell you how I came about this. So before I got separated, or before the separation actually took place, I was going through a book called 40 Days of Love by Rick Warren. And I was going through this book with my fellowship, Lighthouse Fellowship. Hi guys. Yeah, so this is a family. We come together we used to come together every Thursday to read the word, share the word, and break bread, and generally just discuss. So we generally just love each other like that, and we love our company so much. But then we also love the fact that we could come together in truth and just share the word. And one of the things that we also took to taking in developing ourselves was reading books. And so we decided to read this book. And it's so strange, right, when I think back, every time I think about this, that I had to actually go through this book before I got separated. So, 40 Days of Love by Rick Warren, right? And in session 4 of this book, which is called Love is Forgiveness, Love is Forgiving, right? We had the process. There's a process of forgiving in this book. And I'm going to share the name of this book also in the description, because I think that, we should actually read it and go through it. But this is what I will share from my book, right? The key verse: love doesn't keep a record of wrongs and that others do. This is from 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 5. Love doesn't keep a record of wrongs that others do. And I want to say here that keeping a record of wrongs means that, for me, it meant that holding on to all the wrong things, the things that, people had done to me, or my spouse had done to me, right? Holding on to it, that is hugging it. I had to, it's important for you to let go of all those things. Some people note down line by line what their spouse has done to them, and then they keep it saved somewhere so they can go back and read it and just feed off it. But that's all toxic, and that means that you haven't forgiven, and so you can't move on. So you mustn't keep record of your wrongs. That means that you must let go of the past completely for you to move on. The ultimate test of love is how you respond when somebody hurts you. So why don't you try and take the forgiveness quiz below? So there's a forgiveness quiz in the book, which I also got from Ikpeme-Mbakwem's book, which I share in my book, and I think that you really need to go through that quiz. But, let me just move on to tell you, right, that I want to share some lessons, right, from the sessions with you. But I would like you to experience the entire session by purchasing the book or easily follow him on YouTube. Recording is amazing. So, forgiveness is not minimizing the seriousness of the offense. That's something that we have to understand about forgiveness. It is also not resuming the relationship. Forgiveness is instant, but trust must be built over a long period of time. Forgiveness takes care of the damage done by letting the person off the hook, but does not guarantee the relationship will be restored. If a person repeatedly wrongs you, you are obliged by God to forgive that person, but you are not obliged to trust that person to let them continue to hurt you or to instantly restore the relationship. So here are the 3 steps for forgiveness. Number 1, relinquish relinquish my rights to get even. This is something you have to say. I relinquish my rights to get even. You need to buy the book. The second one is I respond to evil with good. And then the third is I repeat the process as long as necessary. So, Lord, how often should I forgive someone who sins against me? 70 times? No, not 7 times. Sorry, 7 times? No, not 7 times, Jesus replied, but 70 times 70 is what he said. This is from Matthew 18:21-22. When I got to read this chapter, it was then I fully grasped the lessons behind the forgiveness process. Forgiveness can never be a one-time swig from the brook, because anytime an event occurred to remind you of the unsavory, old negative emotions will rear up their heads, and you would feel anger, disgust, bitterness, pain, etc. It is in those moments that we are meant to forgive and forgive and forgive again. Forgiveness is also an act of love to you as it is to the other person. So, wow, going through the emotion of going through the process of forgiveness is not a one-time. It's something that you have to do over and over again. Um, in my book, I also had the leading to share some exercises that we needed to go through to be able to crystallize, what I had shared in the book, right? And I called them blueprints. And this was blueprint number 4. And I called it or titled it Investigate Yourself. And I'm going to just ask you to try one, and I'm going to read this exercise to you. Examine the state of your heart. You need to think clearly in truth to know the state of your heart concerning your hurters. Are you in pain when you think of them? Do you feel rage? Do you feel like wearing those boxing gloves, and, boxing and getting into the ring, with them? Do you have regrets? Do you feel love? Do you feel peace? Acknowledge what you feel. You have to acknowledge what you feel. Because when you acknowledge what you feel, then you know that you would know what it is you need to do to be able to get better, to feel better. Forgiveness is not an easy process. I've dropped the book. It's not an easy process, right? But it's a must. It is a must because unforgiveness causes a blockage. It blocks you from moving to the next level in your life. And not just moving to the next level in your life, but enjoying that level, experiencing fulfillment in that level. That's the blockage, unforgiveness. At the point you need to open up your heart and your mouth and say, Lord, I was hurting. Yes, you were hurting. You've gone through the hurt and the disappointment, but you need help. You need the Lord's help because you can't forgive your own strength. You need to reach out to the Lord, to your God, to forgive, to be able to release all that negative emotions, everything, all the pain, and embrace life. This life that we wake up every single morning to thank Him for, you need to embrace it and love it. And His forgiveness that allows you to do so. So I hope that with this few share of mine, I've been able to stir in your heart and in your mind the need to go through the process of forgiveness. Remember, it's for you most importantly. Thank you. Alright, so watch out for my next channel. Please subscribe, share to anyone you think needs to hear this. Subscribe, just come back and watch all my other posts or other videos. Comment, ask me any questions. I'll be happy to share. This is something that I've given my life to. God allowed me to go through, to receive pain, right? To receive hurt. But I made healing aids from it with my book and with what I'm sharing with you all today. So remember, love life. Ciao.